Point to Auckland.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The voice of the creative economy.
With Vincent Heeringa.
Yes, he's back for 2010. It is Vincent Heeringa from Idealog, Good Magazine's NZ Marketing, the HB Media stable, stoppress.co.nz as well. Good morning to you, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo. How are you, mate?
Very, very well. And you've really been back into the swing of things at work for a wee while.
I have, yeah. There was no rest for the wicked. I was back on the 5th or on the 6th or whatever it was. It seemed very early. But I've been earning my credits so that I can take a week off next week.
Well, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Heading up north.
I am indeed.
To the
lovely far north.
Where it's even warmer than it is here.
The windowless north.
Yeah, so they say.
Very interesting, the north. It's such a mixture of glorious beaches and a kind of productive wasteland. There's there's very little industry up in the far north, and yet it's probably some of the most attractive countryside.
Yeah, I'm yet to make my way all the way to the top, to the
Cape.
To the Cape. It just seems like that extra oomph. You got to get up there.
Yeah, it's quite far, isn't it?
Yeah.
Deceptively far. Auckland's only about 3/4 or 2/3 of the way out the country.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is the first month of the year and a good time to start looking forward. So we thought would have your dream outcomes for 2010, Vincent.
Well, I've got high hopes for this year, Wammo. High hopes indeed. It's got doesn't it have a kind of, it's not a palindrome, but it does have a kind of elegant 2010.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, rolls off the tongue.
It's got a kind of nice shape to it.
Yeah.
There's probably something feng shui about the number. But I do have my top 5 dream outcomes for the year, if I may. And some of these things are within my power to achieve. Most of them are not. But that's the thing about dreams, isn't it? That you're allowed to
dream them.
Go for the wild and woolly.
Yeah.
So my first dream outcome for the year is that now that the recession seems to be behind us, is that this one's about the government, I'm sorry, but I really hope that the government this year actually does something about the long and slow decline of New Zealand as a country, and I'm talking economically here. I'm not talking sports or environmentally or any other way. I'm just talking about our long-standing economic decline, which has been happening for 60 years now. We are slipping compared to the rest of the world, and particularly to Australia in the last couple of decades. We are becoming a poorer country, as we have discussed in this program many times, and the government has tried to address it over the years, and Labor had a good stab at it, but fell well short of the mark. And this government has kind of made a half-assed attempt with various task forces, which the one on 2025, catching up with Australia, was a pretty big disappointment, and the government has already dismissed a lot of the recommendations from that one. And we've got the tax group reporting back today, and there's some hints there about changes to tax coming up. But overall, you've got to say that there doesn't seem to be anyone at the top that just absolutely is grasping the nettle and saying, what do we have to do to save this country from becoming the next Kazakhstan?
God, that's a little bit extreme, isn't it?
Is it? Well, one company, Morrison & Co., they're an investment company, they calculated that if New Zealand carries on in its current economic decline in about 40 years, we'll be about level with Kazakhstan in terms of personal incomes. So, for one thing, I think the public needs to wake up. But there are people in government that know this and have known this for years, and there doesn't seem to be any urgency about fixing the problem. So that's my number one on my wish list. Is, can we finally get on to fixing this problem with some urgency? And the second one is related to it. Whatever happened to the Labour Party? Can you remember them?
Yeah, they're somewhere there. Opposition, I think they're called.
Yeah. Well, where's political dissent going? I haven't heard from that group for what seems like years. And, they are completely missing from this argument about, or this discussion that needs to happen about fixing our economic engine. And there is such ripe territory here for an articulate and aggressive opposition to push the case. And so my second wish list is for the Labour Party to and the opposition benches to blimmin' wake up, please, and get on to the case. What we need is more robust argument.
Okay, that's fair. It's fair enough comment. Fair cop.
My third wish on the wish list is that sustainability becomes the kind of mainstream problem, issue, matter for discussion and for action that it really is. I think the recession has kind of masked and allowed this government in particular, but business in general too, to kind of dismiss sustainability and climate change as a kind of a non-issue, and it's not urgent, and but it's important, and it's not going away.
But
meanwhile, the rest of the world, in particular Europe and America, are investing really heavily in clean tech and taking remedial action to progress their economies to a low-carbon world, and we seem to be just living in a state of denial, Wammo, not doing anything about it.
Do you think that sustainability ties into your first point also about growth and wealth, and that we're not getting on with the sustainability thing because many people think that sustainability and climate change and all that gets in the way of business actually making more money for the country?
They are tied, and to my mind that's a mistake, because traditionally New Zealand gets its wealth by growing more stuff, growing more sheep, producing more milk. But I read recently a statistic that was pretty interesting. The income gap between us and Australia is 30 billion on a kind of proportionate basis. And that's 5 Fonterras, and we just don't have enough land to produce 5 more Fonterras. So the answer is we need smarter knowledge businesses. We need software companies and high-tech companies, which, by the by, have a pretty low environmental impact. We need to make more of our brains and less of our sheep, so to speak. So there might be a clue there as to how you could balance growth and creating value, and also addressing the sustainability needs. Just flogging more of our land is not going to be the answer to producing greater wealth.
What else is on your list?
Number 4, what I would love to see is some breakthrough companies really doing well on the international stage. I read in December that, it might have been earlier in January, Auckland Airport has invested in 2 airports in Australia, and one in Northern Territory and one in Queensland, I think. And it really struck me, I haven't read for a long time. I can't even remember how long it's been that Kiwi companies are investing overseas. We're so used to becoming at the receiving end of foreign investment, which is, I'm not against foreign investment at all, but how much better would it be for Kiwis to be investing overseas? And we just don't see it, Wammo. We haven't seen the great New Zealand investment export success for what seems like ages. So that's on my list. I would love to see joint ventures. I'd love to see a software company make some major breakthroughs. Another big film deal be brought back to New Zealand. I want to see New Zealanders actually making money on the world stage.
Okay, yep, that's a good one. Next.
The last on the list is, personally, and I'm speaking personally here, I'm sick of this blimmin' recession. I really want I really would like my business to succeed and grow this year, and I think there'll be many, many small businesses in New Zealand that are just dying to see 2010 be a prosperous and economically vibrant year where we're actually making some progress for a change. New Zealand has been, and I think we finally are technically out of recession, but we've been in recession for a good 2 years. But
there's still a recession in the mind.
There is a recession in the mind.
And it's kind of annoying.
To be over.
Yeah. We need it to be over. I've seen it around these parts that there's a mentality that we're still at the beginning of 2009 or end of 2008. But no, we've actually moved on.
Yeah.
We need to get into that new mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to see is burgeoning credit card bills and sort of racking up of consumer debt. What we want to see are businesses flourishing and people investing and buying quality stuff. Because, as you say, there's this real kind of dilemma, but it's not an impossible dilemma to solve between sustainability and consumerism. But somewhere in there is a miraculous solution, Wammo.
Yes.
And I hope it happens this year.
Well, Vincent, after all that thought that you've already come up with in the beginning of the year, I think you do need a holiday. So you go to take that week off up north, and we might catch up with you. We might interrupt your holiday or see you when you're back.
Awesome.
Thanks, Vincent.
All right.
Vincent Heeringa from the HB Media Stable, stoppress.co.nz, NZ Marketing, Good and Ideologue magazines.